So it has been quite the week. Last week I made a video discussing the heartbreaking loss of an inspiring head teacher, Ruth Perry. And I said in that video that I know this is not the first example of something like this happening, because we must also remember Carol, who also took her own life after a brutal Ofsted verdict in 2015. But this has to be the last time it happens. And it shouldn't take something like this happening to be a catalyst for that change. But I feel like we're at a turning point now. And to see the way our profession has reacted in the past week, I feel like in her memory, we are going to make that change for good. I feel like as a profession, we're finally making a stand after knowing how ridiculous the Ofsted system is for years. We're finally taking a stand to no longer allow Ofsted to continue to ruin teachers' lives and just have a negative impact on education. And before anyone comes to say, oh, here's another teacher just moaning about not having to be accountable, we understand schools need to be accountable. That's not what we're saying. But Ofsted, in its current form, is just not a force for good. If you want an actual insight into what it's actually like going through an inspection, at the beginning of the week, I made this Google form where teachers could share their Ofsted experiences anonymously, which last time I checked had over 2,500 responses in less than a week, and it makes for bleak reading. But I have shared this with the unions, with journalists and anyone who's willing to hear. We had the news of Flora and her school who wanted to take a stand and not let Ofsted come in. It's been amazing to see how many schools have honoured Ruth Perry's sister's wishes to remove all references to Ofsted on their website, on their letters, etc. And listening to the radio and news where teachers are speaking out and making a stand is absolutely brilliant. Because as far as what Ofsted have come out to say, it's been not surprising, but incredibly disappointing. Let's start with Michael Wilshaw. You know him, he was the ex-head of Ofsted. It always gets wheeled out when they need that one person to defend them. He was the guy who came out and said, if the morale of staff is at an all-time low, you know you're doing something good. It's this guy. Here he is, asleep in a staff meeting of the school he was leading during the pandemic. I mean, listen, not judging him here. I'm like that most staff meetings, but yeah, that's him. He came out and said that most head teachers and school staff actually welcome Ofsted, want Ofsted to visit. But when I asked you lot whether you would welcome Ofsted, 25,000 people said they'd rather Ofsted deep dive into a bin, and 182 said they'd welcome him. So that's 0.7% saying they'd welcome Ofsted. Cheers, Michael. Thanks for coming. And then we get Spielman's response, only taken a week to put this out, which has 2 paragraphs talking about the tragedy, whereas the rest of the letter is just spent trying to justify Ofsted, why we still need them. I love the little logo here, biggest lie in education, that isn't it? Ofsted raising standards, improving lives. No, Ofsted checking standards, ruining lives. So she says in this letter, it's in the children's best interest that Ofsted continues. Don't know what planet she's living on when you look at the recruitment, retention crisis in education and the workload pressures that come directly or indirectly because of Ofsted. Plus, I've had numerous messages from teachers where Ofsted inspectors have made students and pupils cry after the absolute grilling they've given them. While she welcomes a discussion about the grades, she said that the grades are necessary for parents to get an understanding of the school. Which again is a load of rubbish, because when I put a poll asking parents to say the role Ofsted reports played in deciding the school for your child, 7.8 thousand said not at all, 2.7 a little, and then 221 said a lot. She also tries to defend Ofsted by saying most inspectors were previous school leaders, therefore they understand the challenges, which if you go into the bios of a lot of Ofsted inspectors, they've never led a school before. And actually there's a huge chunk of them that if you give a little Google to, you'll realise that the reason they're not a head teacher anymore is because they were made to leave their schools through numerous accusations of bullying. And we also know through crib sheet gate earlier on in the academic year, any Ofsted inspector who still works at a school is doing it to gain an advantage for their school, which again has been highlighted in this article, showing it's been complicit in gaming its own inspection system. which just again goes to show the ridiculous levels of inconsistency with the whole process, which is what I think most of us struggle with, which creates all the workload, because it's that look at the roll of the dice as to which inspector you get on which day. And just to prove that level of inconsistency, it's been revealed that Caversham Primary had a pilot visit from Ofsted for that new inspection framework in 2019, which included Amanda Spielman coming, and the head teacher Ruth said that the feedback was glowing. But yet a different inspector goes in, completely different outcome. But the fight continues, and we've all got a role to play. You can share your experiences of Ofsted on that form. You can keep signing all the petitions. Continue to carry out Ruth's sister's wishes of removing all references to the Ofsted rating from the website. Wear black armbands if you've got the dreaded call, and share a poster of Ruth for the inspectors to see. And remember to keep checking in on each other. And if you are struggling with everything at the minute, please do reach out to someone. The Samaritans or the Education Support Partnership, the charity that has been set up to help with the mental health of school staff.